is Block 6, the Great Depression, Section 5, after the 100 days, the election of 1936, Lyndon B. Roosevelt. Roosevelt obviously wins renomination for the Democratic Party. The Republican Party swept away in the 1932 elections, searches around for a candidate, and they settle on the only Republican to actually win an election in the 1934 midterms. Alf Landon was the governor of Kansas. And they nominated Landon, and then Landon and Roosevelt ran this campaign. Roosevelt did not run a positive campaign like he ran in 1932. Roosevelt ran a relatively negative campaign. Roosevelt ran a campaign focusing quite a bit of anger against banks and the wealthy and industrialists, engaging in class warfare not often seen in American politics beforehand. Alf Landon, the governor of Kansas, runs on the fact that Roosevelt has not ended the Depression. That in 1936, unemployment was still over 15%. The economy had not bounced back. It was not getting any worse, but Landon said, what Roosevelt is doing is not helping the economy recover, and what we need is more economic recovery, and if you like that, vote for me. As you can tell from the map, the American people were still in no mood at all to elect a Republican. Roosevelt was incredibly popular. His populist class warfare pitch resonated amongst millions upon millions of Americans. As you can see from the map, this is one of the biggest landslides in all of American history. It's more of a landslide than even Roosevelt's defeat of Hoover. That Landon only carried the extremely Republican states of Maine and Vermont 8 electoral votes. And that was it. And Roosevelt carried 523 electoral votes. In terms of percentages, this is the greatest percentage any president has ever won in history. Roosevelt wins 98.5% of the electoral votes. He wins over 60% of the popular votes. It is an absolute landslide, and what it does, it serves to kind of guarantee that the New Deal is here to stay, that the American people are not going to overturn the New Deal and change it. That they like Roosevelt, they like what he's doing, even if he hasn't really ended the economic depression. Now, like I said, Roosevelt runs a fairly negative campaign, and he gives a term to those bankers and industrialists. He calls them economic royalists. Royalists is one of those terms from American history. A royalist was a person who was disloyal to the Patriot cause during the Revolutionary War. A royalist is somehow someone who's un-American. Economic royalists was a term used by Roosevelt to paint the wealthy with a big, broad brush. Conservatives who looked at the New Deal and were aghast, they thought it was socialism coming to the United States in the guise of communism coming to the United States, that Roosevelt wanted to Sovietize the American economy, wanted to Sovietize the American people. A lot of these conservatives formed what they called the American Liberty League. And the American Liberty League campaigned and argued that Roosevelt was in fact a communist. He was a traitor to his class. He was a traitor to all of the things that made the United States unique. They argued that his socialism would destroy the moral fabric of America. It made people dependent upon government. It took away people's self-determination. It took away people's ability to kind of raise themselves up by their bootstraps. It took away American initiative. Kind of a classic conservative case against intervention in the economy. As we have seen, this was an utter failure. That the American Liberty League was painted as a bunch of rich, out-of-touch plutocrats who wanted the people to suffer, and Roosevelt was in fact saving them. One of the first things that Roosevelt did after what he was reelected was pass the Revenue Act. In 1936. He won his election, and even before the new Congress met in 1937, Roosevelt pushed through the Revenue Act, which raised taxes on wealthier earners quite significantly. This money was used, of course, to pay for Depression-era programs. So the election of 1936 was a benchmark in many, many ways. And it was going to precede Democratic arguments that are going to be made, really, until the current time.